I like to, thank you. I like to come down into the audience because I feel like Oprah. Um, anyway, I wrote Rebirth of the Oracle several years ago. I've been a reader for about 20 years. I was a librarian most of my life, and during the 1980s, I live in Ohio. I don't know if you've ever heard of Geneva, Ohio, the Geneva on the lake. It's kind of a honky tonk. Anyway, they have a library. And are we okay? And I started to notice the books that came in about tarot were really kind of spooky. They were off base. They were saying things like, well, if you look at this card, it means a civil war. Well, who cares about a civil war? We're in the United States, centuries later. And the tarot came from the 12th century. Egyptians, they believe. There's no real truth to, people will tell you anything they want to tell you, but pretty much of what has been researched, they kind of feel that it came from the Egyptians. During the Renaissance, it made its way into Europe, particularly France and Italy. The French and Italian Renaissance painters loved to paint the tarot. Well, all society is based upon its religion. Therefore, the French and Italians were strongly Christian Catholic, and as they painted the cards, their interpretation of the hieroglyphic went more toward the Catholic Christian concept. So you got death and you got the devil. Those are the two cards that scare people. And I never start a card reading, ever, with somebody new without first explaining. I have a canned speech. I say these are tarot cards. You will control the reading by asking questions. You can ask me as many questions as you like about yourself and those closest to you regarding love, health, work, money, career, travel, anything you want to know, I'll tell you. I don't have any holds barred. There are two cards in the tarot that frighten people. One is death and one is the devil. I am not God. I do not know who's going to die, and neither does anybody else. And I tell my clients, if you encounter a reader who says you're going to die, you get up and you walk out. For two reasons. One, they are assuming the power of God, and that is not who they are. And two, they really don't know anything about the tarot. What the death card really is a mistranslation of a hieroglyphic that reads transformation. And it means that you're going from like one part of your journey to the next. And to be transformation, there are 4 areas in life. They are all defined in the tarot by the suits of the cards. Those areas, your day-to-day activities, your finances, and your possessions, your personal relationships, not just with your husband, wife, but with your friends, your family members, your kids, your coworkers, anybody that you're in contact with, and your empowerment. Empowerment, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So if those things all change, then you have a death card. Well, what changes those things? Major commitment things from marriage to divorce, having children, maybe when the kids leave home, if you move across the country, if you change careers. When I changed career from being a librarian to be a tarot reader, that is a death card. If I had changed from being a librarian in Geneva Library and gone to Cleveland Library, well, that wouldn't have been a death card. It has to be that big of a change. And so everybody has to have death cards in their life or they wouldn't be alive. You would have no changes. So I always tell people, don't be afraid of it. And the other one is the devil. A lot of fundamentalist Christians will say, oh, the tarot's evil, the devil's in it. The devil is not a card of evil. The devil is actually a mistranslation, yet again, of hieroglyphic, which I personally read as bondage. The devil is what we do. We have our own devils. It's what we do ourselves to prevent our own growth. For most human beings, the card represents anxiety and fear. Anxiety and fear holds more people back than any combination of physical problems. And some of you older folks like me might remember the 7 deadly sins: greed, anger, envy. I can't remember the rest of them. But anyway, whatever, those stuck in my head. The nuns taught me those. But the negative emotions are the devil cards, and that is what holds people back. And a lot of times as a reader, I can identify that. I don't know how I can do what I do. I have no idea how I can do what I do, but I just do it. And it's almost as if, for me, I can read a spread of tarot like reading a newspaper, and I don't know why. What happened was, about 20 years ago, I was working in the library, and there was a young man. He was probably 15, 16, and I live in a small town. It's called North Kingsville. It's east of Cleveland, Ohio. And he came from a pretty rough family. The typically abusive, didn't have shoes, and he used to hide in the library, to kind of keep safe. Well, I'm a bleeding heart Queen of Cups, and some of you are Queen of Cups, and you know who you are. I'll tell you if you don't. And we feel sorry for all the poor and everybody. You know, we take them all in. And he didn't have shoes. I mean, he had them, but they were too tight. And his feet were like lumpy because of the shoes. Well, I felt sorry for him. So I went and I bought him a pair of shoes. Well, a few months later, he came into the library. He had a deck of tarot cards. It was the Universal Weight deck, which is the deck I used to illustrate the book, wherever I'm in a picture. Anyway, he put them on my desk. He said, "You can do these." So I picked them up, and I could. I don't know why, but I could. And I got into a place, and it's not even like to me real anymore. What happened is as I looked through those cards, I was outside of my body, and I'm just this regular person, and this stuff is not in part of my life. It just happened to me. And I was not there anymore in the library. I was in a white light. And in the light, I could see in front of me was a table. And on the table were these symbols. They were on like pieces of paper, or I don't know, some parchment. And there were gold chairs around the table. The table was very ornate. I couldn't see anything else because it was white, but I could see my lap. You know, when you're sitting, you can just see your lap. I don't know what I look like. I just knew what my lap looked like. And I knew that my name was Rama. Well, I looked on the internet, and I looked up the word, and it came back with a couple of meanings. One of them was it was the Egyptian word for compassion. Knowing that the tarot was Egyptian in origin, maybe at the time I was a compassionate helper of people, I don't know. And then the second meaning was the Jewish word, Rama, the spoken word of God. So I'm like, okay. And it's what happened. And then I went away from that. And that vision has come back and forth to me. So, and to be very, very honest with you, I was not into metaphysics. I never heard of past life regressions. I never heard of any of that. I am your classic Italian Catholic, raised in Pittsburgh in the 50s person. And I'm like, all right. So, and I learned it, you know, and it was absolutely true. So the more I studied, the more it made sense to me. Tarot to me it's like I've done it all my life. It's just like I've done it, and I must have, at least in another lifetime. One of the things I noticed as a reader that some of the meanings in the cards were very, very archaic. It was almost as if, what does that have to do with now? And one thing I noticed that was missing was that nobody gave archetypical personalities to the court cards. And when I first started Rebirth of the Oracle, well, I'll be truthful, I don't even know how to type. I have no clue. I wrote this whole book on a yellow legal pad in longhand. True, 69,000 words. And the other girl that's named on here, she knows how to, she's a technical writer for a scientific company, and she put the book together for me on the format, and she did the disc for me. She took it off my notes. But anyway, I gained a lot of success as a reader. I never advertised, and I just never did. And people just started to come to me, and it happened. I don't know, it just happened. So that's how I became a tarot reader. But anyway, I began to notice different things, and I noticed that people fell into archetypical patterns. And as I would read other tarot books, they might say Queen of Cups, intuitive woman, okay. They might say Queen of Wands, nurturer, some little thing, but nobody ever did the full personality. So I started to take notes, and I started to interview people and talk to them, and I found the commonalities were amazing. And down to percentages of the things that like were wrong with them physically, the way they carried relationships on, the things they did for a living, they were very archetypical. And most men and women fall into one category, sometime an overlap into two, particularly as women are younger or older. You know, when you get, depending, like 20s and 50s, you sort of maybe have two of them, and men as well. Men seem to tended to stay more in one category than women did. But I started to chart different things, and I charted 10,000 different statistics until I came to the conclusions that I arrived at in the book. What I also noticed was that I was able to just look at anybody. I can tell you what you are by looking at you. I don't know how I can do it, probably because you do it so much. People say to me, oh my God, how can you do that? And I go, you know, I'll say, well, where do you work? And they say, they work in a plant, and they run a press. I said, for me to run that press would be just as hard as for you to do this, because it's what you do. It's just what you do for a living. I kind of go through this audience, and I'll tell you what you are. and then I'll run a little bit by. You can pick my book up out here if you want to read the whole chapter. There's about 10 to 12 pages on each one. And you are a Queen of Wands, and you remember what I tell you. You are a mix of, you're pretty much of a wand, but you have a little bit of Queen of Cup in you. You have a little bit of mystery to you, but you're also a healer, and I feel your healing energy is tremendous. You are definitely a wand. You are definitely a cup. No question. You are a cup and a pentacle mixed. You are a Queen of Wands. Yeah, she's a high priestess. This is my friend. She's everything. She's got high priestesses are women who have accoutrements of all four queens, which is the compassion of the Queen of Wands and the intuitiveness of the Queen of Wands, the healing energy of the Queen of Pentacles, the compassion and the intuitiveness of the Queen of Cups, the healing and nurturing energy of the wand, the creative, intellectual, artistic energy of the pentacle, and the boundary setting of the sword and the intellect of the sword. Sword people are the intellectuals that make a difference. She has all four of them. She's a high priestess. There are very few of these around. You are a Queen of Wands with a lot of cup coming up. You're young. You have to watch the boys. What are you, like a teenager? Are you really? God, you must be a Queen of Cups. I was going to say, you're the kind that men who need fixed draw to. You got to watch that. You're Queen of Cups, Queen of Wands, Queen of Wands, King of Wands, Pentacle Wand. Let me look here. That's Pentacle Wand too. We got a lot of Pentacle in you. Queen of Cups, Wand, 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 Sword, Wand, Cup, Wand with Pentacle, Pentacle, Wand. He's a high priest. Wand, Cup. You got a little bit of both. You know, you're starting to get Pentacle to you. Yeah, you are. Since I last saw you. Are you getting like real artsy or something? Yeah, I'm thinking. Because I saw her last year and you didn't feel that way to me. And like they do, they kind of move between. Mostly women will move between a couple. Wand, 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 pentacle, cup, wand, wand, cup, pentacle, pentacle, sword, cup, wand, cup, high priestess, wand, 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 cup with pentacle. You got Knight of Pentacles in you. You've got King of Cups. You're King of Wands, Queen of Wands, King of Wands, Queen of Wands, Queen of Wands, King of Wands, Queen of Wands, high priestess. This John? Oh, he's a cup wand. He's a wand cup. He's got a lot of, he's got I should say no, he's more of a wand pentacle. I don't know what he is. You might be a high priest because you have artistic ability, you have compassion, and you have a work ethic. See, but I don't think you have boundary setting. I don't think you set boundaries. I think you let people just walk all over you, right? Don't you kind of let people just take advantage of you? No, you're not like that? You're like the quintessential good guy. Yeah, you are. You are Clint Eastwood. Do Pentacle, Wand, Cup. Read 3 of them. You're a 3. Anyway, so if you can recall that, and if not, you can always grab a hold of the book. And I'll start out with the Queen of Cups because the book is dedicated to the Queen of Cups. The reason I dedicated the book to the Queen of Cups, because of what I am. No, I did a big, oh yeah, that too. But as I was sitting there thinking, who do you dedicate it to? You got your husband, you've got your children, you've got your friends. Well, you know, the women who are the best tarot readers are the Queens of Cups, because the Queen of Cups is the Queen of Hearts. So I said I dedicate the book to the Queen of Cups, to the woman who can read the cards. The Queen of Cups is the Queen of Hearts. In a regular deck of cards, she is my love queen. Not because you get so much, but rather because, like the butterfly, which is your symbol, all your life you will go from person to person you love, throwing a little magic here, a little money there, a little motivation, whatever. Queen of Cups is non-judgmental of other people, has an unlikely assortment of friends, people who perhaps wouldn't be friends with each other, but they're your friend. Because the Queen of Cups believes there is good in everybody. And when other people are saying like, oh God, get away from him, get away from her, the Queen of Cups will say, well, they're good about this, they're good about that, you know, trying hard to see the good in other people. The Queen of Cups is a very old soul, been around many, many lifetimes. And when you're a Queen of Cups, you are setting yourself up to get hurt. I will tell you that right now. Because when you're not expecting it, people will blindside you because you would never hurt anyone. And the Queen of Cups has difficulties with boundary setting and generally comes from a background where there's some pain. Whether it be a childhood pain, a lot of abuse goes on in the lives of many Queen of Cups. Oftentimes there's an alcoholic parent, spouse, lover, somebody in their life where they learn enabling behaviors. But that also is what tunes the Queen of Cups in. Her intuition is so sharp because of what she's had to learn. And her soul is very, very old, been around many, many lifetimes. When it comes to sickness, 44% of Queen of Cups suffer from depression, 37% ailments of the digestive system. Work, shouldn't have to work, we're queens, but you got to find something you can stand to do when you're a Queen of Cups, and that's the best I can tell you. You got to be able to like it. What else? Anyone who has loved you will always love you. However, because you are a Queen of Cups, the Queen of Hearts, many times you will draw people who need fixed. Queen of Cups will draw alcoholics, drug addicts, liars, losers, just those kind of people. Just don't marry them. You know, you don't have to marry him. I didn't. I married a great guy. I married a King of Wands. Best match for us. All of this is in the book. There's pages on it down to like who's best for you, who's not good. But that's kind of, and the Queen of Cups is indeed the queen who can read the tarot. The Queen of Wands, I'll do her next. She is the most loved queen in the tarot. The Queen of Wands is the Queen of Clubs in a regular deck of cards. She is an earthbound queen. The analogy is a tree. You are always there. You are always giving of yourself. You spread your arms wide over many, many people. And people walk right past you and take you for granted because you're supposed to be there. You're a tree. You're the Queen of Wands. She is the most loved queen in the tarot because in case you haven't noticed it by now, your life is spent in the service of other people. You come directly from the hands of God. You are the healer, the caretaker, the nurturer, and the teacher. And the Queen of Wands, there's nobody that does not love the Queen of Wands. And she's just the person that sometimes, you know, it's hard to be a Queen of Wands because you'll get lost in the fray. People don't notice the Queen of Wands. For instance, in the workplace, she's the hardest worker there is. But in the job place, like bosses won't promote her because in her little part, she's doing so well that if they promote her, they'll mess up the order of things going on. So she has to almost stand up and shout, here I am. She's also the person that people tend to rely on. She's extremely trustworthy. The Queen of Wands never lies, ever, ever, ever. And her moral compass is very, very high, much like her sister, the Queen of Pentacles. And over here I have a wand and a pentacle mix. So you would be like the most honest person walking the earth. Yeah, that's true. And so, and again, people have a little, you know, and I say about 80% should apply, you know, you might have a little bit of each, but for the most part on the wands, health. 74% of these women had problems with their joints, most often the knees and the fingers. Well, it makes sense because you're always standing up and doing stuff, unlike myself, the Queen of Cups. I sit, I don't have, nothing's wrong with me. So, I mean, but you ruin your joints. With money, the Queen of Cups, I started to say, I forgot to tell you, we never get rich. We'd give it all away. But the Queen of Cups always gets money. The Queen of Wands, however, is good with money. She's frugal. She's not cheap, but she's frugal. And she watches her pennies, and she makes sure that she has enough. And what interests me about Queen of Wands is, well, see, I'm married to a King of Wands, so I have it made. He cares about that, so I don't have to. But the Queen of Wands, she doesn't trust anybody. I don't care if she's married to Donald Trump. She has her own money. She has this thing about building her pension or building her future just because she does. I don't know why, because I'm not one, but that's how they are. And they've always got money for a rainy day. Past life regressions will often show the Queen of Wands to be the White Witch or the healer, the person who takes the things of the earth and heals. We don't have too many White Witches floating around today. However, many Queen of Wands enjoy holistic medicine, supplements, herbals, nutrition. They enjoy digging in the dirt, planting gardens. They're very much in touch with earth itself. Every Queen of Wands is a good cook, every one of them. And it's not, don't have to do cordon bleu. You can do espada chili. But the thing with the Queen of Wands is that, say you're going to have 6 people for dinner. Remember, you're cooking, and this is the 21st century. That's your cauldron. So what will happen, you're dispensing comfort out of that cauldron. You'll make enough for 30 so everybody can take food home because it gives comfort. And that's all part of the wand energies. Wand people are known to be blunt. They can be very blunt. They can say whatever they want to say to whoever they want to say it to, and they really don't care if you don't like it. That's just the way it is. And you can't ever get mad at them because they're so nice. True. Occupations, medical, teaching, animals, kids, the earth, food, any of those things, because they are the nurturers. We go to the Pentacle people, Pentacle women in particular, the Queen of Pentacles, Queen of Diamonds, a couple Queen of Pentacles in here and some mixes. Now the Queen of Pentacles is without doubt the most mentally healthy woman in the tarot. A couple of reasons. Her moral compass, again, very high. But the Queen of Pentacles prepares herself for life. She is not a person, unlike the Queen of Cups, who just takes a shot at it. Oh, I'll be a tarot reader. That's not a Queen of Pentacles, believe me. They plan things through. The Queen of Pentacles, there's an artist in every one of them, whether they draw or paint, whether it's the way they decorate their home, the way they dress. They have an eye for beauty, and they like things to be a certain way. And when you're a Queen of Pentacles, I know one thing. You've got beautiful clothes that you bought on sale, you've got great jewelry, and you're the best mother in the tarot. There is no better mother than the Queen of Pentacles because she has high expectations for herself and thus for her children. Ironically, on health, she is the woman who is most frequently afflicted with problems with the reproductive organs. Can't figure that one out, but it's all true. And again, statistics. Money, if anyone will ever get rich, it will be the Queen of Pentacles. She's very good in any occupation. However, most Queen of Pentacles are educated. They tend to do very well in the medical field because they don't make mistakes. They're the ones that get to the administrative part. They're good in the business world. They're good in marketing, good in banking, anything with numbers, anything where there's organization and control. You can count on the Queen of Pentacles. Then we have the Queen of Swords. There's not a lot of Queen of Swords that are drawn to the tarot, and I have a couple of them in here today. The Queen of Swords, first of all, is extremely intelligent, extremely. Sometimes to the point where she trips over it. We have one over here. And I don't know. Do you know who Margaret Starbird? She's the one that did the background on the Da Vinci Code with Dan Brown. And I was at a conference with her, and she's another Queen of Swords that I met. And you have the same energy. Queen of Swords are so smart. And what happens with them is sometimes people look at them and like, what? And you have to sort of like explain it to them. And the Queen of Swords has a great courage of her convictions. She is right. She wouldn't say it if she wasn't right. When it comes to health, she doesn't believe in sickness. She's never sick. Queen of Swords live till they're 150 years old. They never get sick. They are very, very, as a rule, in their relationships, they hang on for dear life. Their family is everything to them. Queen of Swords run everything around the family unit. There is nobody else that matters as much as the family unit. Money in her, another one who's good with money. But the Queen of Swords is less likely. I think most women today are pretty generous. I think the Queen of Swords is the most likely to be generous to people who deserve it versus the Queen of Cups who just says, here, take it, I don't care, Because the Queen of Swords, she has a very level head on her shoulders. Many Queen of Swords are at the top of their field. If you're going to look to the top of the field, you will definitely see a Queen of Swords sitting up there. And sometime with her, the sword is double-edged, though. A lot of times people will mistake her They will think that she is either aloof or not welcoming, when the reality of it, it's just her personality to be a little bit standoffish until she gets to know you. She doesn't trust. Like the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Cups, yeah, come on in. We'd let a whole, we'd let escaped killers in. Yeah, come on in. She wouldn't do that because she's a Queen of Swords. And the success rate to the Queen of Swords is extremely high. As you're an author, I think. You're an author? Yeah. And that's perfect. The research in itself is perfect because a lot of these women write doctoral theses. They find their mind is like amazing. And they ferret out every little detail. And I don't meet a lot of Queen of Swords. There's not very many. Most of them don't seek the tarot, to be truthful with you, because it doesn't fit to their way of thinking. But Queen of Swords, of course, we thus have all 4 women represented. The Queen of Wands from the hand of God, the Queen of Swords from the power source of God, the Queen of Cups from the heart of God, and the Queen of Pentacles from the creative intellect. As we go to the men, we do the King of Wands. That's my favorite. Been married to one for 38 years. They're the good guys. They're down to earth. They're hard workers. They're like alpha male. Usually, they don't clean the toilet. Their wife doesn't shovel snow. I've never shoveled snow. I've never painted a room. He does it. He doesn't do anything else. I do everything else. But that's, King of Wands. Hardworking, great fathers, great husbands, very protective, healers in their own right. By right, whether we have a doctor healer or we have a dad who makes his son feel important. You know what I mean? At every level is the King of Wands. He's my favorite. Again, high percentages of problems with these men in 2 places, their joints and around their hearts. I think that probably more King of Swords, or King of Wands rather, have gone through joint replacement therapy, high blood pressure pills, heart stents, cholesterol. Why? Because their heart hurts sometimes. I think these are men who take on so much in a metaphysical sense. They have so much compassion, they break their heart. And I think that their joints, they wear them out. So they just wear them out because they're always working. And these are not men who are afraid to climb up and shingle the roof. And they're not men who are afraid to get down and dirty. They're like the alpha male. The King of Cups is a little bit of a dreamer. We have a couple King of Cups in here, and I like that in a guy. He's got a little bit of a soul of a poet. And he's a bit of a skeptic sometimes when it comes to, I want to think, people. A lot of King of Cups don't trust people. They've been hurt a lot. And what will happen to them is through the years, they'll become a little bit more and more to themselves. It takes probably a Queen of Wands to get him out of that shell. Because the King of Cups he's sensitive. He's very sensitive and often psychically very sensitive. What is kind of ironic, the Queen of Cups and the King of Cups do not usually get along in a love relationship. Because the Queen of Cups is willing to take on that, okay, we believe in everything energy, where the King of Cups isn't. And the King of Cups, sometimes he wants proof, and he doesn't want to get hurt, so he'll back off. Many King of Cups are addictive. Many King of Cups drink. A fair percentage of them are gay or bisexual. Now, not all of them, but they have a very balanced yin and yang, as does the Queen, but it's more apparent in the King. And what often happens to the King of Cups is that what he'll do is to shut off the voices in his head. And I don't mean paranoid voices or anything like that, schizophrenic voices. I mean, as anyone who's most women, there's always the thought going, the thought. These guys can't take that. And so what they'll do is they'll turn to alcohol often, and they'll just shut it up. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to be that way. And then as they get older, they start to embrace it. And then you'll find many wisdom seekers and wisdom givers in the King of Cups. Get a lot of ministers, a lot of spiritual people, a lot of people who, counselors, therapists, healers, I'm trying to think, psychologists, social workers, because they kind of learned from inside themselves. And as they get older, they mellow out, and they're real good guys, except you don't want to mess with them if you're a Queen of Cups, because they won't ever believe you. And then when they finally do believe you, well, you know, the Queen of Cups, it matters more to everybody else than it does to us, so we don't care. They don't believe us. We're right? So it's true. The King of Swords is an unusual man because he is my power energy. Oh, I forgot to say, the King of Cups, often problems with the digestive system. I think their stress lands in their stomach. And with the King of Cups, they also, money. They like their money and they like their possessions. And they keep their possessions very, very well. These are not men who throw their wrenches in the corner of the garage. They're lined up in a box. They're somewhat perfectionists. So, forgot to mention that. But again, in the book. The King of Swords, he's my power source energy. He's the leader of men. He's the leader. Many King of Swords will aspire to political careers, or even if not going that high, they make a difference in the world. Sword people make a difference. And say if you're a King of Swords and you didn't want to be governor, but maybe your children go to a school and there's problems in the school, you won't just complain about it. You'll get on the school board if you're a King of Swords and you'll make it change. Sword men are extremely intelligent, like the Queen of Swords, and they like positions of power, often found in the legal profession and the medical profession, and military. These men tend to bring home, they don't need to bring home authority. They have it at work. So when they come home, they're very like, I want to call inspiring men. They want their wives and children to be something. They don't hold them back. They encourage them to move forward, and they have the resources to do it. They want their kids to grow up and be something, and their wife, they're the men that let you be who you are. So few men, no, I shouldn't say that. Nowadays it's a little different. Of my generation, women and men were different. We were kind of like second to men, which of course has changed. The King of Swords were never like that. They always allowed, or wanted actually, equality. Many Kings of Swords love music, and they love to dance, and many of them do very well at playing musical instruments. I think it's their outlet. And then we have, of course, the King of Pentacles. Great guy. King of Pentacles, King of Diamonds. He makes a lousy first husband, but he's a great second husband. Very true. And the King of Pentacles, what it is with them is that they're very inspired to make it in the world. They're money-oriented men. They're all educated, especially nowadays. You know, past people in their 60s, maybe not so much, but younger ones. Knights of Pentacles. Knights and kings are a little bit different. I'll do king first, then I'll go with knight. But the King of Pentacles, he's very much driven. He's driven. I got a lot of Virgo energies in Pentacles, and they're perfectionists. What usually happens of the older generation, because we have to kind of separate these whatever, you know what I mean. Anyway, they would get married young, 21, 22. That was like my generation when we got married. Well, if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But the King of Pentacles, rather than go on, he would just not. He would continue with his career. Most of them got divorced because their wives, they were too busy working, and so their wives were angry. They were never home. So, whatever would entail. So the King of Pentacles, rather than retaliating, would be alone for many years, raise his kids, work his way up through his career, wake up when he's 50, think, I want somebody to share this with, becomes very, very generous. Finds a woman, and like I say, great second husbands. They enjoy showing people the world. They enjoy sharing what they have. They really are good at it. And they're very good at intimacy. All Pentacle people are. Now, and I say intimacy, I don't particularly mean sex. That's the wand people. Wand people like their tactile senses fulfilled. They're your this, okay? But the Pentacle peoples, they'll never forget. Like if they don't forget birthdays, they don't forget that it's your anniversary. If your Pentacle husband or even wife Pentacle people know that you like apricots, they will never forget that. And they will always bring that in. Very good at intimacy. With sickness, with Pentacle people, Pentacle men, again, they don't do anything not to take care of themselves. So they're healthy. But what they do tend to do is have a lot of stress-related headaches into the back of the neck, stuff like that. And that's mostly what I see in them. In the tarot, it starts pages, which are children, which I will not go into here simply because there are no children here, and A, because it does not follow that if you're a Page of Cups, you'll turn into a Queen of Cups. That's not how it is. Children are children, and they have the right to change. I have a few pages on the children of the tarot. Basically, again, with the suits, the giving child, the child who's more curious, the child who's the wild child, and then I have the child who's the pleaser. But that doesn't necessarily follow into adulthood. But in the tarot, it's child. Then for women, it goes child, woman. For men, it goes child, young man, man. So we have a little corner group called Knights. And there's not too many Knights. I think I just saw one in this room. And yeah, back here, Knight of Pentacles. Knight of Pentacles is awesome because Knights of Pentacles are extremely smart. Of all my suits in the tarot, Pentacle people, but especially the Knight, curious, not afraid to say who he is and become what he is. They're late bloomers socially. These are not men who, date the whole cheerleading squad. That's not how they are. They kind of keep to themselves. They're not jocks. They figure things out. They are always thinking. They are guaranteed success without question. Most of them do not marry until they're in their 30s. And at that point, they're ready. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I have the Knight of Cups. We all love those. They're the bad boys. They're the ones with the thug appeal, the one you dread your daughter being with, They got the bad boy, and they're the ones that, they smoke pot, and they don't have license plates on their cars, and they don't have insurance. The ones. They're fun. But you can't expect a lot out of them, and what we kind of hope is that they grow up. They usually land in jail. We also have Knights of Swords. They're my daredevils. They're the ones, when I wrote Rebirth of the Oracle, I have some blurbs on the back. And one of my clients is a guy, I don't know if anybody in here follows extreme sports, but there's a motocross superstar. His name's Trevor Vines. And he is he's nuts. He flips hundreds of feet in the air backwards. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And just the daredevil who seeks fame by his very feats of daredevil. And you got to love these guys because they're down to earth, they're normal, they're loyal, they're loving, wonderful men. But I wouldn't want to be his mother. It's bad enough being his friend. One time he invited me to Gundurina. He's like, do you want to come and watch me perform? Sure. I was like this the whole time. I was like, I can't watch that. But those guys that have to test the waters, they're the Knights of Swords. And then, of course, we have the Knight of Wands, who are the classic sons of divorce. These are the ones, and there are many, many of these children today, children, young men. Their parents divorced. They're very attached to their mothers. They tend to be the guys that are homebound. All they really want is a family. And thus, they marry early. Many of them go back into the service occupations, much like the Queen of Wands in the King, work well with their hands, and yet they always crave the family, which is why I see them marrying young. Of the 4 children of the tarot, I do want to talk one moment about the Page of Swords. Those are the Indigo Children. I don't know if anybody, most of you have probably heard of Indigo. We do have a faction of children that I do run across. I don't read cards for children. I only read them for adults. But I run into parents who have these children, and the kids just don't seem to stand a chance from the beginning. It's as if they're thrust into this world where, they're labeled, they're attention deficit, they're learning disabled, they come from families who don't care, there's drugs and alcohol around them, and you never think they have a chance, but they come up shining. And those are my Pages of Swords. And I use them, I equate them to the Archangel Michael. They become very, very powerful. So if you do ever get to know a little Page of Swords, a kid that maybe somebody's picking on or doesn't quite have it all, do remind them that they are indigo and that they have a great way to go. Those are my significators in the tarot, which of course, again, it's all in the book. When you read tarot cards too, I don't know do I have any readers here? Is anybody card readers? Okay, we got a few card readers here. Everything is in the delivery. I teach private tarot classes. I teach seminars, but I also teach only 5 or 6 people at a time because I'm kind of developing I'm developing a program, actually is what I'm doing. But anyway, one of the things I most say is it's all in the delivery. You can say anything you want when you're a tarot reader. Who's going to know? When I read cards, what I do is if they have my book, I write on a notebook everything that I see in that reading. Not everything I see, but why I say it. This card means this card means this. Trying to kind of educate people on the tarot to tell them it's about this and you can learn this and this is why it says this, so that people are not frightened by it. I also think, too, that when you're a tarot reader, you have a lot of responsibility. I personally do not have a great deal of affection for readers who scare people, for readers who try to take extra money from people. I believe that a tarot reading should be reasonable. You've got to make a living. But I won't mention any names, but anybody that charges $750 an hour is out of her mind. Who is she? God. And I mean, people, and then you also have to have factions of people can't afford it. You know they can't afford it. You'll feel it as they come to you, but you want to help people with it. And again, you have to make a living, but for that amount of money that you charge, if you indeed charge, give them their money's worth. Don't scare them. Don't, sell them extra things. Oh, this just kills me. There's a woman who lives near me, and she actually managed to get a $3,500 diamond ring from a guy. Honest to God. She told him that if he bought her this ring, she would guarantee that the greatest love of his life would come. And I'm like, right. You take your $3,500 and flush it down the toilet because it's not going to happen. But don't go to those people. If you're looking for a reader, you find a reader, A, who does not advertise. Don't look for it. Because when they've got the palm in the window, you don't want to go to them. Because what they're doing is they're trying to draw business from anywhere. My suggestion is to work only through referral. That's the only way I've ever worked. Reason, my office is in my house. If you call me up and say, will you read my cards? And I'll say, who referred you to me? And you say, I just heard about you, you wrote a book or something. I'll say, no, I'm sorry, unless you have a referral, no. If you call me up and say, oh, Dolores Cannon referred me, sure, you can come to my house because I know you're not going to be a serial killer, right? So, common sense. Yeah, it's common sense. So you want to work that way, and you don't want to, what do they call, toot your own horn and tell people you're a reader. You just be a reader, and they'll come to you. I have thousands of clients, and I work all the time, and it's fun, and I love what I do. Writing the book has added to it. And I've met a lot of wonderfully exciting people. My God, I can't even tell you the people I've met, and most of them here. But outside of that, quite a few. And Dolores always likes me to tell one story. I had a guy he'd gone to school with my daughter, so he'd be about 35. And a couple of years ago, every time I'd see his card, there was this Ace of Pentacles, which is this huge amount of money, and it was in front of him. Well, usually there's only a few ways to earn money. You're going to earn it or invest it. You're going to win it, or somebody's going to, leave it to you. But he kept having this money card. It was going on for about a year, and I'd go, I don't know where you're going to get this money, but it's right in front of you. It's within the next 2 years. It's not inherited. It's not luck. I don't know, but you're going to be a millionaire by the time you're 34. Yeah, all right. Well, get this. He got called to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and he won. So he said all he could think about is when they told him at the end, this was his chance and should he take it, he said all I could think about was you telling me I'll be a millionaire by the time I'm 34. I'm going to take the chance on the million. And the question they gave him was something about, I don't know, it was 2005 maybe, and they wanted to know what year it was, like the Chinese New Year, it was the year of the dragon, whatever it was. He had no clue, but he had to phone a friend. So he said, I'm going to take it because she told me I'll be a millionaire. So he calls his father-in-law, get this, and at the house is his uncle with his father-in-law, who that day had eaten at a Chinese restaurant that had a placemat that said 2005, year of the monkey, whatever it was, and he knew, and he won. That's how he got to be a millionaire.
Tell the rest of the story. What happened to the $1 million after he got it?
His wife spent it all.
The rest of the story.
She took and gambled it all online. Isn't that something?
But you said you could see that, too. There was going to be a problem.
I warned him, but that's all right. I only like to talk to the good part of the story.
Yeah, but that's the rest of the story.
Yeah, it is the rest of the story. But
you get the money, and then what happens?
Isn't it sad? And you know, but I think we'd all like to think, oh, I'd love to be a millionaire. But you know what? I don't even know what I'd do if I was. Well, we'd give it away, right? You just give it away. I don't think what else I can tell you. That's pretty much about my book, about me. I have a couple, I think, 3 readings left to do this weekend. If anybody wants them, I'm thrilled to be with you. Anybody have any questions, please ask me, and I'll be happy to answer them. No? Yes? No? Yes?
They want to use the microphone.
Oh, okay, here.
And I didn't want to hear because they're taping.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I believe you said I'm the Queen of Wands.
Mhm,
That
that's been
tarot, yeah. But many times through the years, people have told me I'm going to have a problem with my knees and with my fingers, and I haven't had any of those problems. Is it because of my spiritual attitude to things, or what?
It's that you're one of the blessed, because it's 74%.
Oh.
So which leaves me 26% who don't, but that's the most common,
I see.
is what I say.
Yeah.
But yeah, and a lot of it is your spirituality, because I think cup people override sickness. And you've got, like I say, you got cup and wand in you. I think just enough to balance off one and the other.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Way back there, John.
This is John Moore, who is our cover guy.
Didn't he do a beautiful cover on my book? Yes, my dear.
And he is fantastic. He gets inside the author's head, as you heard Susan Mack say this morning. He gets inside their head somehow.
He got mine the first try. The first try he wrote, I said what I wanted, and on the, oh, thanks. On the very first try, he got exactly the cover I wanted. Truth. Yes, dear.
She called us. She was real depressed that morning.
Yes, I was.
And he said, we got the cover. And she said, it wasn't feeling too good. And she said, well, what you said?
I said, is it a beautiful woman looking up?
And she said, yes, it is.
And yeah, I had to have her looking up, and he had written her looking up.
He emailed her the picture, and she got so excited. She said, it was exactly what I wanted. He gets inside our author's heads and knows what.
Yeah, he definitely does.
But we're real proud of John. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. You said that, excuse my ignorance, but certain people, do they grow into, can they change, are they just there and they're not quite there yet? Are they always what they are, or can people
All of the above.
change?
All of the above.
Okay.
People like you, because you're so multi-talented, you probably have a little bit of each one in you. Most people are not multi-talented like that. You have an artistic side, you have a sensitive side, and yet you have an earth side. So you've got a lot of talent. So you could probably touch on all 3 of those kings. Versus
Do I grow into that? Is it just phases, or am I
you've always been that way. You've always been that way. And you may have been thought, and don't take this the wrong way, but people who are multi-talented like you are, when they're young, are often thought as unusual. People will think, he's an odd one, you know? But the reality of course, but the reality of it is you're just so multi-talented. You're just very gifted.
But can people,
Can they turn into that? No.
they can turn into something. They can.
They are.
Work within the boundaries.
They can, right. And you're one of the blessed. You're definitely one of the blessed. People who have many talents like you have, or like Clara, my friend up front, you're one of the blessed. Because you can work within any one of those arenas and do very well at it. Very unusual.
If you have time, I've never had a tarot reading. You have a lot, but if someone else comes to you,
We'll work it out. We'll do
And
it.
you know, it was funny. We needed a cover man so bad. The other people we were working with were not delivering, taking forever, and we had to do it long distance by mail. I went into a 7-Eleven store over here, and my daughter was in the restroom. They had a bulletin board, and his card was on the bulletin board, hidden by all these other cards. And I found it and took it off there, and I said, that's how we found him. By accident?
Yeah,
Or is
7-Eleven.
anything ever an accident?
She has a question here.
Earlier, you said that the Queen of Wands often gets overlooked just because she's supposed to be there.
Mhm.
Should I assume I'm a Queen of Wands since you overlooked this row when you were doing
I am
significator?
so sorry. I did. I'm so sorry. Well, yeah, I'd have to look at this whole row and say wand, 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 but you have some cup in you. You have a lot of, don't you ever notice you have a lot of like intuition with other people? Yeah. You're probably cup wand, half. You're definitely wand. You're definitely wand. You're just earth wand people.
You know, Justine, you always said when you worked in audience, there are always very seldom were there swords in the audience.
Very seldom.
Very
I have a
seldom.
couple of them here.
And now you've got two.
Yeah.
And one of them is one of our authors here.
Right. Yeah.
So it's funny. You got two so powerful people here.
Yeah, and they are the power people. Yes. There you go.
You might be interested to know that when I was a young child, like 4, 5, 6 years of age, maybe 3, I came down with major illnesses like polio, rheumatic fever, St. Vitus dance. Had to reteach myself how to walk. And in all of these cases, they did not last long. And in all of these cases, when the doctor would talk to me and tell me what was going on, or my parents or elders or relatives, I would always say to myself, that's not right. I'm not going to have this, and I'm not going to have it very long. And I never did. I always got rid of it.
Because you're the sword.
And when I was 4 years old, this mole that I have right in the middle, at the dot point, this big
third eye?
mole.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's above the third eye. It's the dot point.
Okay.
It was way over here. Oh, maybe about not quite an inch over to the right. And I remember looking in the mirror in the kitchen and looking at that and talking to it and saying, you know you're supposed to be in the middle. Now you scoot over right now. And within 2 months, it did.
That's a Queen of Swords.
That's a third.
Well, in the messages of Michael, are you familiar with soul typing? I'm a warrior.
Definitely that. Well,
Okay.
the sword carries the sword.
But
She's the warrior. You're exactly right.
is the
That's
PMH.
amazing.
That's the third eye too. You moved it over to the third eye.
Yes.
Yeah, the third eye.
Okay.
Okay. I just noticed that, like, some of the things you were saying about the cup and the wand, that even with me and her, that it's like all mixed up. Like she's, I'm like,
Well,
some
but
of the stuff I'm.
And you know the thing too is everybody has accoutrements of all of them.
Yeah.
And some people are balanced with 2, some have just 1. I'm like 1. I have nothing but 1. But a lot of people have 2, 3, 4, and I have that on. And you may find yourself going toward either direction. As you girls are in your 30s, you said? Yeah, wait till you're in your 40s and you might settle. You might settle in. See, I even think you got a little pentacle in you because you got a little bit of a perfectionist energy coming off of you. That if your name's on it, it's perfect. And so that adds to it. But at your age, I usually say by 40, people are kind of settled. And then at 50, they might start to change again. But yeah, you got a little bit of pentacle too. I forgot to mention that. So, okay, anybody?
I'm curious about the aging factor. As you get older, and if you're a wand or whatever, do you become more so, or does it just remain
It
level?
usually remains, other than if you've kind of hovered between 2 of them, you might, as you get 60, sort of settle into, well, you know what, you just get tired. And you're just like, whatever one's easier. I kind of find myself, I noticed the most significant change in the 20s and in the 50s. And sometimes people will bounce between 2, but usually toward the end of the 50s and by 30, you're just sort of on one keel. And again, we all have accoutrements of some of them. I'd say about 80% of one, maybe some, 50-30, or I'm sorry, maybe 50-50, but you kind of sort of stay there,
Well,
I think.
I'm curious because is there one that has more longevity?
I'd say of all my queens, the Queen of Wands has the most longevity. And it's because she doesn't believe in sickness. She's the one who says, it'll kill me or go away. And then it goes away. So if you don't believe in it, you don't get sick. And they do have a lot of longevity. And they don't generally, they're not addictive. Cup people are addictive. A lot of cup people smoke. A lot of cup people are addicted to like food and stuff like that. Where wine people aren't like that. So I think they have a tendency to leading healthier lives, as well as they're more into holistics. They're more into herbals and natural foods. So yeah, I think the wine people live the longest. God bless you. See, and you're doing the holistic?
What I did when I was 16 is because of my attitude.
You don't believe in it, right? That's right. When you don't believe in it, it does not exist. Yes.
I have a question about, in my 30s, I had a traumatic life event, and I feel like it's accelerated me into if you want to say a personality type or whatever. I mean, do you find that? Because,
yeah.
you know, in my 30s, I didn't know what the heck was going on, and now I'm
You're
just
probably
really,
Queen of Cups, yeah. When you, yeah.
because I don't think I had those traits so much before that happened.
And when you're Queen of Cups, what happens is you don't feel like you're like everybody else. Queen of Cups are very unusual. And this is my description. Here's everybody on the universe, okay? The world's a globe, all right? We're all on it, except the Queen of Cups. They're standing outside. And all these people are going by, and sometimes you want to walk in and join them, and other times you walk back out. That's the Queen of Cups.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know.